may need to disappear for about 5 minutes in the middle, so I apologize in advance.
We are recording. We were just remarking that the meeting attendance was a bit low here, and probably the reboot of the bounty system has scared away a number of people.
Well, I think there's the reboot of the bounty system. There's also other issues within the cooperative.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, Jim.
Who's going to who's going to be the host today or the guide today? Does there anyone want to
Here, Jim, before we do that, we've got the announcements. There's the annual member meeting. I put in a link at the bottom, or some information at the bottom about
I just wanted to fill in the guide and the scribe first here.
Okay.
Since you want to
I'll do the guide. Who wants to scribe?
I can scribe, but I don't want to be the only one. Several people jump into the document and start adding comments.
Right, put the comments right in the agenda.
Okay, let's make Gary be the official scribe, and with help from everybody.
Please help him.
So just in terms of the announcements, there's the annual meeting coming up. Dan Connolly asked for a place where people could go and look at all the information about it. I don't know if somebody from here wants to volunteer to do that. Again, I don't know how exactly it will be written up as an issue, but that's something that potentially somebody could be interested in. Let me give you my summary of the meeting so far. The co-op has a cash crunch, and that's partially related to the price of crypto dropping overall, and partially related to just the limitations on the US dollar reserves that the cooperative holds. So I think if people feel that the bounty system is not in focus or whatever, it could be a lot of reasons, but one of them has to be that the cooperative overall is trying to understand the situation and manage it. Phil, do you want to just say that? Could I recognize you to speak and discuss that?
Yeah, sure. So it's also semi-public information that this might also be the case because of some deals they lately made, that there is a lack of funds currently in the co-op. Just wanted to add that.
And I'm not sure how much of this is handled down below, but the bottom line is that, you know, our work teams have to operate more like businesses. Look for funding from venture funds and partner companies and other sources, as well as from the co-op directly. We're in the process of trying to do that in the collab.
Jim, so maybe that's a good segue into agenda item 2, the sponsorship for collab. Should we just jump right there, or do we want to talk about label guides overall?
just an update on the collab. I'm working with Patrick to get a budget for the collab. One of the issues is, if they give us a budget, how is it spent? And I would guess that it would have to be through the bounty system. I would like to arrange something where we could get it paid into an account for the team or for the channel or for the collab, that could be controlled
Directly by collab?
by collab, and basically the channel could distribute their own funds from their own account, and they wouldn't need to go through the bounty system, even though it's necessary.
So Jim, as you get more specific ideas on that, let me know if there's anything I can help with. I think that in general, going from bounty directly to collab might be more appropriate than going from co-op directly to collab. But that's just, I haven't thought this through very clearly.
In any case, what they're thinking of is basically giving collab a budget based on activities that they're planning to do. And
okay, Jim, there's a question about what is collab, and since some people, there may be people watching this who are not familiar with collab, maybe that's a good place to start. So you could include the purpose and scope and all of that. And if you'd like, you could ask Gary or anybody else to help with giving the overview.
Yeah. We should probably dig up the blog article on the collab and share that with people, and put that in the notes. But it's the Cooperation Laboratory is a test bed for decentralized organization, and building teams and getting people to work cooperatively. And it's, really onboarding people into a whole new way of working, from individual deliverables to cooperative activities, which have at least one person in the backup that make it a collaborative a cooperative thing, because it's cooperative because there's more than one person. And what happens is that when you when your followers are cooperating, or people you're connected with are cooperating in the collective intelligence, you're represented, and you have a presence in the collective being of the cooperative. And it's an attempt to follow collective intelligence best practices and the patterns of decentralized organization on every level. Small, well-connected teams work best, and we're experimenting with ways of facilitating that. Anybody else want to comment on what the collab is? from their perspective?
Yes, I want to say that I've heard some people say that they really don't like the idea of a bounty system, and they they can't imagine a worse way to to earn treasure. What I like about the collab is we have a structure set up where people can be involved in the project and actually receive and move assets around, but they don't have to worry about this part about the bounty system.
Right. We're hoping to become more autonomous. Um, uh,
And I see this method of funding channels autonomously as being an adjunct or something that runs in parallel to a well-functioning bounty system. There are certain things that the bounty system is perfect for.
yeah.
But then I mean, there are a lot more things I believe that are amenable to autonomous use of capital and decision making at the at the edges.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a balance of things here. I mean, we are the members of the cooperative. We have a treasury of billion rocks or whatever. I guess less than that. But one of the cooperative principles is economic participation. And we want to give people credit in some way or another for their effort. And we can use, no par value.
Jim, I'd like to be a little bit more precise. First of all, with respect to the Treasury, I think that somebody at CoLab should pay a little bit more attention. There are some published numbers. I think we'll get more published numbers. There's also an IOB number 5 that's generating a lot of traction that is financially oriented. So people in CoLab should be familiar with that. At the other side, I think that not everybody understands what it means to be a cooperative and what the role of CoLab and bounty system and rewards by members to members have to do with the cooperative structure. And I think that needs to be emphasized as well. So as you look for sponsorship, not everybody is sensitive to that, but some people are.
Right. And I think that producing value to the cooperative that the cooperative wants is going to be rewarded. And we have the bounty system mechanism now. We can experiment with other ones. What we have now is good enough. It works. Basically only sponsors or the representatives have voting power currently. I'm hoping they add apprentices for October. But any member can vote on reward distribution, which is great. And in one case, we got a project funded after the deadline, which is great. So the system is not totally dysfunctional, and we know we have to get our act together. And if we can engage people to lead the channels that are sensitive to the business needs and the need to cooperate. Some redundancy is good. You want redundancy. That allows the system to evolve. But we can't afford to be fully redundant and let everybody go develop their own widget X that does the same thing. It's what we tried to institute last month was have the stakeholder groups, the departments, so to speak, enter issues that we could grab. That never happened, and that resulted in, I suggest, in the panic that happened in the reboot of the bounty system. Now, the pendulum has swung a little back, more centralized. Greg's wish, so there's a negotiation process that goes on in terms of what people can do, would like to do, would like to learn, whatever, and produce a value that RChain would be willing to pay employees to do, but doesn't need to because members are doing it.
So, Jim, I just wanted to emphasize one thing that you said. You mentioned Greg, and I think Greg would be a good sponsor for things like Collab. And I think it would be worthwhile approaching him. And I think once some sponsorship is established, that Dan and the TAC will be happy to certify you and possibly others to help in the running of that. So that would be a way forward that I would recommend.
Yeah, like I said, Patrick has basically committed to provide support for the collab, and they provided $2,000, $300 support for September, which was a lot less than what all the items with the collab label would have requested if they passed that budget. But they're trying to set reasonable expectations. $300 for a blog article, X dollars for a video indexing.
Excuse me, but Alan, when you say go to Greg for
sponsorship,
sponsorship, do you mean go to Greg as Greg, or go to Greg as the head of the co-op?
No, as a member who is a leader in the community, and I think that people are looking for endorsement by community leaders. So I don't think that Greg should be endorsing everything, but this is something that I think Jim and Greg have spoken about and could put together a good case for sponsorship to some level.
And I think I think putting together a good proposal is something that really falls on me. But Greg did agree to help us find sponsors So, I don't know if it's connected, but no, it's not connected because I talked to Greg after they had already authorized the $2,000 budget. The issue is, where does community building and member education and marketing, there's, they're overlapping, and we're, in a sense, we're getting almost triple value out of what we're doing. I mean, we're engaging members, and members are engaging their friends. This is the kind of thing we need for organic, for exponential growth of the cooperative is, basically word of mouth, as people bring in their friends. I mean, you look at what's happening in Tampa Bay and the tremendous activity there. And, that started with me. And it's grown into a landmark effort of, creating, working to create the Tampa Bay Shard or the Florida Shard, whatever.
Jim, could you tell us what put a little color? I don't think everybody knows what you're talking about.
About what?
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay is areas an hour away from me, and Patrick and Jeremy and Chris and Andrew. It's a hotbed of RChain. Okay, because I came to the meetups years ago and did presentations on scenario and such. But I'm not sure what the point is there. But
you were speaking about Tampa Bay, and I'm not sure how that fits into what you were saying.
Oh, I'm just saying how how by how engaging members, engaging people to participate economically with RChain in a productive manner can be expands.
So, Jim, is that something that maybe you and some of the collab members could kind of write up as an extended description of the label itself? I think that might be useful to people so that when they look at a collab label or a label that's related to what you're speaking of, they can find out a little bit more about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, right now it just means that it's work that is taking place in a channel in the collab, participating in cooperative work, the cooperative work experiments.
Okay, let's get comments on this part of the discussion, and then I asked Aaron to come and describe what's going on in the marketing label. So, are there more comments about collab? Going once, going twice. Okay, Aaron, I don't think that Kyle is here today, but maybe you could speak a little bit about not only the marketing label, but also whatever you know about the label guide system and how that's evolving after the reboot as well.
So I know that there's a handful of labels that are coming out, mostly high-level items, just to kind of begin the sorting process and things of that nature. That's really all I have to say about that. I haven't really been too involved in the label creation. I was on a call earlier with Kit, Peter Mormon, Dan Connolly, myself, Drawer. I think Jim was in there as well, maybe one or two other people. And the discussion was, the functionality of the label and what we're trying to achieve by having those labels. The other thing was talking about having labels that reflect whether or not it's sponsored and whether or not it's sponsored / funded, since that's really how everything is to be moving forward, is to have proper approval and validation before moving forward into any work, less of a do it first and then ask for permission later type method. So now it's more of a and what I had been working with Patrick and Leah and Craig and Ned is more of a pull down or top down style of formatting, which is what I had put into a comment I put on, I think, in the bounty system, just meaning that, know.
Can you put that slogan? That was really cool. Can you put that into the minutes?
Yeah, sure. So what we're essentially doing is we're getting the approval first and aligning ourselves with the actual RChain marketing org, which is what I've been saying we need to do for a long time now. A lot of what had been happening was speculation and bottom-up marketing, which is really just not very conducive. I mean, I know it's less decentralized this way, but at the end of the day, this is still a business. This is still a company and brand that we need to develop and get to a point that we can do things that are more decentralized. But until we get to that state, we all need to be working towards the same goal and not, just creating things for the sake of creation. So I've been working with, like I said, Leah, Craig, and Ned, and what I've gotten was several blog articles that I've opened. Issues 997, 998, and 999 are the first ones I've done. There's going to be several more, but those are all approved topics. They've all got an assigned budget, and what I've done is I have started not interviewing, I'll call it that, writers and people who are interested in writing, telling them to submit samples of their writing so I can just kind of see and think about what topics they would be good for, whether they're super technical or they're more creative, see how engaging they are. And
Aaron, I want you to continue, but could we just pause for a minute to get comments from people about what Aaron just said?
Sure, not a problem.
So Aaron spoke about trying to get samples of writing and so on to create good teams. Does that make sense to people? What are your feelings about that?
I think Leah is doing the same thing in the collab.
Yeah, so Leah, I'm not. I know Leah had been doing something similar. I'm not sure what she had been doing in the collab. I should probably go over there and just see. I know that it's not overlapping, but I do know that there could be some things that we could streamline the process so that way we're not trying to do the same thing but reinvent the wheel for different server sets. What channel would that be in, Jim?
I think there's a channel called Publications. Okay, if there are no more questions about writing, then Aaron, maybe you can continue with your description. It's been very good.
Okay. So as I said, I've been talking with those people and working out just kind of the process and how it's going, how the bounty system can actually benefit the RChain marketing org. I know that, like I said, I've only opened up 3 issues, but that's just the very beginning. Depending on how well the writing goes, how the expectations are met of the marketing org, and whether or not the articles get published, will kind of determine just how much more work we get. But I know, just based off the conversations we've had, there are dozens upon dozens of articles that need to be written and that they have topics for. Well, if all goes well, anyone interested in writing will certainly have an opportunity to be part of this. And like I said, just DM me some samples of writing, and I will try to play.
Aaron, the DM you're talking about, is it a sample of the article you pasted, or just a sample of the previous work the person has done before?
This wouldn't be like translation articles or anything like that. This would be a completely unique content article on any particular topic. Owens did a couple that she sent to me. Let's see, who else? Isaac Dufresne, who's one of the technical writers. I think Valentine sent me something on row calculus. Is that? I'm sorry, I don't think I understood your question correctly. Could you say?
Okay, that's my question. I just wanted to know because I've seen the issue, but I've been quite busy with a video I'm working on. So I wanted to, now you just spoke about it, I just wanted to gain clarity on how it works.
Okay, so what happens is I've had, like I said, I had several meetings with Ned, Craig, and Leah, who all have content that needs written. And I advocated that, the bounty system is full of writers, and those writers to get this content out there. So what I've done is to make it fair to everyone, or as fair as possible without showing favoritism or anything, is making sure that, I get samples of writing, and then I can then delegate particular articles based on, the person's writing style, what their comfort is, what their specialty or niche within blockchain is, or their level of understanding.
Aaron, I have a suggestion, which is that you take everything that you just said, which is collections and comments and different areas and so on, and the way that you did with the Meetup server. It could be a server, but it could also just be a folder within the members on Google Docs, so that maybe organized by topic or whatever, people can submit samples and go from, and then the stuff that you're seeing through DM, everybody could get to see.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a great idea, and what I was actually thinking of doing, because I'm, every day I'm getting more and more DMs from people. I really would like to create some kind of Google form, so that way they can submit a couple samples and then also put topics they're interested in. So that way I have a pre-filtered list, or, a pre-filtered go by, where the writers would be the ones telling me.
Yeah, and if the samples and so forth are in a repository that's accessible to everybody,
absolutely,
come by and look at it.
I want this to be as transparent and fair as possible. So that's why I'm, when I publish an issue on GitHub, there's already a writer assigned. So that way there aren't multiple people trying to fight for it. It's just, hey, this person has this one, the next go round, and the next opportunity.
Aaron, another thing on this is maybe you might want to file an actual issue about starting to create this repository for writing samples and its purpose and so forth and so on, and kind of elaborate on what you've just said here. And I think that would be an appropriate issue as part of the organization of what we're doing. So I think that would be appropriate.
Gary, I just want to thank you for taking notes. I just clicked over to the Google Doc, so I thank you for that.
You're welcome, and I think you can see how much help I need. So we're looking for scribe volunteers.
Okay, sure. David, did you have any other questions about just kind of how I'm handling that? I know that's like I said, we're just getting started. They really just, I hope the process goes well so that way the marketing org can see the benefit of using the bounty system to pay or reward writers instead of going to outside sources. Because it's people who care about RChain and what happens with it and can speak, in my opinion, more passionately than someone who's hired about it for the sake of writing.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think creating an issue is a great idea for creating a writer's registry, which could probably be done reasonably well with if you allocated a reasonable budget to it.
Sure. Yeah, that would be, just seeing kind of how quickly this is scaling with the number of writers who have shown interest. I think that'll be a really, really valuable to create all of an issue, but maybe another talk space, or maybe I can just keep it within the collab as far as publication. But then again, I don't want it to overlap into certain issues that aren't associated or things of that nature. So let me think about how, but yeah, I definitely agree that that'll be a useful tool to implement here in the end of the week or by end of the week, just to make sure that it's getting built properly.
Okay, I just created a to-do for you guys, for Aaron and Jim.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So yeah, so there's that, and then yeah, I think that's the real big thing, especially for the bounty system. So I am looking forward to working with everyone and hope that like I said, it's successful. With these few test articles we have, and then like I said, there's so many more topics to write about. This could be great.
Okay, are there any more questions for Aaron? Are there any more questions about creating more additional sponsorship? Aaron's gone out and done this. Jim's made some reaching out. Are there other people reaching out within the larger community, the RChain community?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that Patrick has recently gotten on board with the meetup server that I created a couple months ago. And so I will be working with the facilitation and guiding of meetups. There's about 4 to 6 meetups that they're hoping to accomplish by end of November. So what I'll be doing is creating templates and presentation formats and things of that nature, so that way all presentations, will have a consistent look and feel, and facilitators, get everything that they need, and it's appropriately branded, so that way we can really make sure that it's a golden standard, if you will, all across the board. Talking about things like email communications and email follow-ups and just general input or feedback forms for participants to fill out, so we can capture more data and things of that nature. So that's just something else that I'll be doing in the next 2 months, and working with Patrick. So anyway, that's just one of the other sponsorship things that I had reached out and gotten approved for. So David, if you have any more meetups coming up, just let me know. I'm sure we'll be working together on those.
Of course.
One more thing on potential sponsorships. I like that idea of sponsoring common programming routines in Rolang for bounties. It may be something that should be handled as a bounty itself, but common routines and maybe common toy dApps, or toy dApps that everyone would understand how they work immediately to try to captivate potential developers.
Yeah, that's part of what Patrick and I are working out in terms of sample programs that come out of the collab. Of course, it can be handled with Jossie and Dan outside the collab. We're in the process of getting sponsors for some of our larger work, like GraphQL, but things like indexing videos, and I guess I said this already. We'll be enumerating the tasks and that we plan to do. And
Jim, it sounds like you've been spending a lot of time on that. Maybe that is also something that could be served as its own issue, an issue to organize collab resources or that kind of thing.
Yeah. After my meeting on Thursday with Patrick, it'll be a lot clearer.
Good.
What needs to be done, and then we'll engage. I think an issue would make sense, engaging the co-op. Certainly, the operations of the collab come under this fixed budget, and I think it's up to Patrick. I think the easiest way for him to handle it is with an issue through the budget system, through the bounty system. But I don't know for sure what he has in mind.
Okay. Is there anything more about collab?
I think we're talking about sponsors.
Okay. Anything more about collab and sponsorship in general?
Nothing from me.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying nothing from me.
Okay. So let's. I wanted to point out this potential new issue. Dan has been asking for some follow-up on items of business. Wise GJ is reorganizing the channel, but the stuff in the Discord channel is pretty free form. So if anybody wants to look at this, I think that it might be something that could be done within the bounty system. It would need to get done quickly and well. And that's this last agenda item. Is there anybody that wants to take it on, or should we just leave it there as an idea?
Hey, I hate to kind of segue to something else, but I've got another call at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Any other questions for bounties on writing or anything like that, just DM me and I'd be happy to work with anyone that's interested, or the meetup server as well.
Okay, Gary, can you put that as a line? People should follow up with Aaron. And we're close to the end of the time, so is there anybody that wants to bring up an agenda item or anything else?
Yeah, I want to say something.
Yes, please.
I want to ask why the link this meeting wasn't on GitHub today. It wasn't on GitHub today. I want to ask why.
Valentine, I didn't understand the words. Did anybody hear Valentine clearly?
Oh.
Can somebody say what Valentine was trying to say?
Hello, Alan.
Yes.
Okay. Val said he was surprised he couldn't find the meeting issue created on GitHub today.
You mean the meeting issue that Tony Priska usually creates?
Yeah, yeah. An issue was not created today on GitHub.
I'm not sure. I think you can follow up with Tony about that. My guess is that Tony just forgot, or I don't know. There wasn't any particular reason. Okay, are there any more questions before we adjourn? Dog, go for GitHub, go for Discord.
Well, I don't use the GitHub all the time. I mean, I actually thought it was only the bounty system and not for other stuff as well. But then again, you know, I'm a little bit fresh, but I'll get into it for sure. It's a bit of a mess.
You look like it's sunshine there, daytime.
Sunshine. Oh no. I'm in a bunker. It's you know, in a closet practically. Yeah. No, I was in a different meeting with another kind of organization that I've been involved with forever, and I left that and I went to the copy room. You know, not to naughty everybody else. But I do have something to say actually, since I'm already speaking. It's not directly on point, but it's about the EU Roland community call tomorrow. I am still reviewing what we had happen last week, and we want to structure the entire meeting a little bit more. So I will be getting in touch with the people who were in the last call to, you know, just find out what issues they want to raise, want to push, and kind of structure it a little bit more. And I know a few of the people who were there are in the call here as well. So I just wanted to, you know, give you some advance warning.
Good. Doug, do you have access to the RAM meeting agenda? Could you just post the links to whatever's there in the agenda?
What is the best way to find this this document?
Can somebody post that right now in Discord? I mean, in the Zoom?
I'll get it.
Okay. So you'll have a link, and that's the meeting agenda and the meeting minutes. And you can just you can edit that.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else before we say goodbye for this week?
Well, we just say that the link to the document is in the calendar, and I don't think the EU meeting is on the calendar. If you need admin permissions to the calendar, just DM me.
All right.
Okay. So we've got 5 more minutes to yield back. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to take up before we yield? Going once? Going twice? Okay, thank you everybody for coming, and we'll see you next week.
We're having a hurricane here. I'm been in 3 hours of meetings, so I'll take the 4-minute break. Okay.
Keep that electricity on.
Yeah, well, I got the oil and the gas for the generator, and the propane for the barbecue. Bye, guys.